Welcome to this edition of Dr. Dave ATP, where we're going to dive into exactly how does red light affect the body. Now, if you're interested in red light therapy and can only watch one of my videos, this needs to be it. Out of all the videos I post, I'll bet this is the one that hits home the most. If you're like every single person I talk to, you have the same two burning questions that they have. Does red light therapy work? And what red light therapy device should I buy? If this is you, then grab a cup of coffee and get settled in and get ready to dive into the information you need to make an informative purchasing decision regarding red light therapy devices. If this is not you, and you're just looking for a quick answer on what to buy, then just go ahead and hit that back button and search the top 10 best red light therapy devices on the market today. And get ready for the World Wide Web of misinformation to puke a boatload of products your way. With just a few clicks of the mouse button, an unleashing of science washing will be underway in this endless game of purchasing something that will end up in your yard sale by the end of your next birthday. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I need to set the stage a little. Let's play a game. Let's pretend we're Bill Nye the Science Guy and we're gonna build our own red light therapy device. We just need to jump on the web and collect all the latest intel to build this perfect product. Should be simple, right? Well, let's see. But first things first, I ran across this new term, science washing. It may not be a new term, but it's new to me. Science washing is a marketing tactic where companies use pseudoscientific language or buzzwords like clinically proven, dermatology tested. They use this mind-blowing technical jargon to make products seem more effective, safe, or credible than they really are. I will say the red light therapy industry gets a gold star for this one. They flood you with all these fancy words pumping up the product without really telling you how it works. I know all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example. This is from one of the leading biohackers out there. Hell, he may even be considered the GOAT in biohacking. I'm a huge fan, however, he too unleashes all these great terms without telling us how the stuff really works. Remember, we need details if we want to build our perfect red light therapy device. Here's his clip. It goes like this. You've probably heard or seen red light therapy as one of the biggest biohacking tools and wonder where to start. Let's simplify it. Red light therapy isn't a trend. It's been studied for decades. In fact, early research on light and cellular regeneration dates back to the 1960s. And NASA later explored red light and near-infrared light in the 1990s to help support wound healing and tissue repair in space. At its core, this therapy works on one system, your mitochondria. Mitochondria produce ATP, the energy in your body uses to repair tissue, support brain function, regulate inflammation, and maintain healthy skin. When mitochondria function declines due to stress, aging, poor sleep, or too much time indoors, energy production drops. Red and near-infrared wavelengths penetrate the skin and interact directly with the mitochondria, improving electron and supporting ATP production. In simple terms, it helps your cells produce energy more efficiently. That's why research has linked red light therapy to improved focus, mood, cognitive performance, increased collagen production and skin repair, reduction in fine lines and wrinkles, support for joint pain and inflammation, better sleep quality. Wow, it's a very well done clip hitting all those scientific buzzwords that I know I like to hear. You know, the ones like biohacking, mitochondria, cellular regeneration, NASA. Who doesn't just love when NASA's in there? ATP, brain function, cognitive performance, the list goes on. He has it loaded with all the right buzzwords, but just doesn't give us any details we really need to fully understand how this works. The details we need to build our device. Nowhere in this message or any of his other messages do you get this needed info. Trust me, I've read or watched them all. This guy is a super knowledgeable dude, and as I said, I'm a fan. So I don't want you to think I'm a hater. I'm just trying to show you that he is just like so many others out there, giving us advice, but it doesn't have enough information in it. We need more details. Nowhere in his message does he say exactly what does this red light do and how it affects the mitochondria. Everybody just simply says it increases ATP production by interacting with the mitochondria. This is science washing at its best. We need more detail. First off, how does it interact with the mitochondria? And when it does, does it cause another effect that we should be aware of? You know, like all these drugs we see on TV. It's great for curing diabetes if you don't mind rectal cancer as a side effect. We need the details. If I am Bill Nye the Science Guy, I need 5 basic questions answered if I want to make my super duper red light device. How does red light affect the body? What exact wavelength should I use and why? How much light should I produce? How long should the light be on for? And what parts of the body do I need to hit? Nowhere in Gary's piece did he answer any of that. Now it's at this point I need to remind you, if you are watching this and you're saying, well, we're not trying to build a light, we just want to buy one. To that I say, yes, you are. To fully understand what you need to buy, you need to fully understand what it does. Who knows more than what it does than the guy trying to build it? So, until further notice, we will continue to be Bill Nye the Science Guy. Okay, let's cover the tough one first. How does light affect the body? Did any of your mothers yell out to you and say, you can't go swimming until 30 minutes after you eat your lunch? What crazy intel that was. I bring this up because it supports one of my favorite sayings. We don't know what we don't know. This applies in red light area. Mom said that because she was working off the best intel she had at the time. That's what the docs were supporting, so that's what she was delivering. Red light therapy is no different. We don't know what we don't know. And I can tell you, red light truly does fall under this category. I have done the deep dive so you don't have to. When it comes to red light, you have to choose a camp that you want to stand behind. And as of now, there are 2. First, there's this guy, Glen Jeffery. He has written countless studies and articles on how red light affects the mitochondria, with one of his more popular papers being Longer Wavelengths by Glen Jeffery and Robert Fosbury. And then there's this guy, Scott Zimmerman, who has published a paper that takes a different approach. That paper is Melatonin, the Optics of the Human Body by Russell Ryder and Scott Zimmerman. I will leave links to both these papers in the description below. To spare you the read, I'll summarize these 2 camps. Jeffries believes that the light absorbed by the fluid surrounding the mitochondria reduces its viscosity, which in turn allows its internal pump to rotate faster, increasing ATP production. Wow, that's a mouthful. However, this makes sense to me. Okay, so there's this little wheel thing in each cell that turns, and I can totally see that it would turn faster in water than it would in syrup. So anything I could do to thin that syrup out would be good. So adding IR light is good. I like this one. I really can wrap my simple brain around this. He then adds that there is this thing called cytochrome C oxidase. This guy is not fluid surrounding the mitochondria, but an enzyme that helps to process and absorbs wavelengths between 650 and 900 nanometers. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. We now know that the heat is the key factor in this ATP thing, and we can get heat into the cells in 2 ways, by heating up the fluid in the cell and heating up the cytochrome C. This is a big deal in providing us with the needed info to make our light. So in the end, we need to choose specific wavelengths of light that will heat up these 2 guys the best way possible. But more importantly, we now know that the only benefit of red light therapy is that it heats up fluid and or enzymes in our cells. That's it, nothing more. No magic here. It does not melt fat, cure broken bones, or even tone your muscles. Just adds heat. Well, it turns out that this heat impacts other aspects of our body, like reduces inflammation, increased circulation, collagen and skin health, tissue regeneration, hair growth, improved metabolic function, brain and eye health. So this is a good thing. And for the first time, we have some good info for making our light. Okay, before I leave Jeffrey in Camp 1, I need to point out a very important nuance in his theory that I feel is critical. He believes that other cells in the body that can benefit from near-infrared light by what's called bystander effect. Apparently, these cells transmit biological signals to nearby cells, allowing the therapeutic effect to spread. This means you can aim the light at your knee and your shoulder will get the benefit. This is huge for making our light, but it seems to contradict camp number 2. and that is Scott Zimmerman. Scott believes that your cells can create intercellular melatonin. To date, it was believed that melatonin was only released by the pineal gland in your brain into your bloodstream. More importantly is the function of this intercellular melatonin. Its job is to clean house, a cellular maid. You see, there are byproducts in the production of ATP. If the cell is clean, it can make ATP better and faster. This makes sense. If you're a cabinet maker and you're constantly producing wood chips as a byproduct of the process, you'll need to clean up these wood chips to make more product. The same thing goes on in your cells, and that's the job of melatonin. When we go to sleep, the brain releases melatonin, which goes to our cells and cleans house while we sleep, so we can be ready to go in the morning. But what about cleaning house while we're up and active and our cells are producing all this byproduct by the boatload? That's where the intercellular melatonin comes in. Its job is to clean out the cells as we work. If this did not take place all throughout the day, we would have an overload dirty cells by nighttime when the melatonin from our bloodstream arrives. So this intercellular melatonin is some great stuff. And guess how this stuff is made? Yep, you guessed it, from IR and near-infrared light. So wow, I was really behind Jeffrey in Camp 1 until I heard this. Who doesn't love a clean house? I know I'm more productive in a clean house, and it makes sense that our cells are hard at work all throughout the day and could use a day maid. But this is so different from Jeffrey. Furthermore, the day maid only works if the cells that get the light from somewhere. No light, no day maid. This certainly contradicts Jeffrey's bystander theory. We just simply don't know what we don't know. The good news here is they both agree that IR and near-infrared light is good for you. The bad news is one says you only need to hit one part of the body for the entire body to gain benefits, and the other says only cells getting the light will get the benefit. Looks like to make our perfect light, we have to choose a camp. One screams handheld lamp, while the other screams bed. Big difference. Okay, so we know what it does to the body, but what about the wavelengths? Which ones are needed? To understand that, we need to know what wavelengths this fluid around the cell absorbs. It turns out that the fluid is mostly water, but it also contains proteins, enzymes, electrolytes, and metabolites. All of these affect fluid's ability to absorb IR and near-infrared light waves. Now, I'm sure all of you have seen this image or one similar to this. I find this image very misleading, as it implies that if I want light to affect only my skin, I cannot use a wavelength above 700 nanometers. Or if I want light to affect a deeper down, I can only use light above 850 nanometers. We need to fully understand wavelengths if we are to build our awesome light. First, it's important to note that the fluid around your cell can be absorbed by any wavelength of light from 400 to 1000 nanometers or higher. The wavelength of light only determines how far it can reach. I always use this following analogy to help you understand this. You are 100 guys lined up shoulder to shoulder across the 50-yard line of a football field. On the other end is about 500 other football players who are ready to charge at you with the only goal of getting past you. Okay, you and your other teammates at the 50-yard line are very healthy 20-year-old men. You represent the skin layer of the body. At the other end are 500 little 5-year-olds who have just signed up for Pop Warner football. Each of these guys represent one photon of 660 nanometer wavelength of light. The whistle blows, and here they come. Well, as you can imagine, nearly all 500 of these photon Pop Warner guys will get stopped by the 20-year-old skin guys. But because there are 500 of them, maybe one or two will get through. Well, let's jack that 500 up to 5,000. How many do you think will get through now? Maybe a couple hundred? Let's push that even higher, more like 5 million. Well, then you have a ton of these little rugrats that get past the 100 skin guys and make their way deeper until they hit the other goal line. So these little 660 nanometer Pop Warner photons can make it to the same depth as a 900 nanometer if there was enough of them. This means intensity and wavelength go together. Okay, now let's look at the same scenario, but this time the 500 guys in the end zone are the Mike Tyson clones representing 940 nanometer photons. The opposite will happen now. Out of the 500, maybe 450 get through because some of those strapping 20-year-old skin guys can at least stop one before letting the rest through. This means the skin absorbed a 940 nanometer photon. Here again, this proves wavelength and intensity go together. This is really great intel. This means we can basically choose whatever wavelength we want for our product. We just need to be able to adjust the intensity of it. Have you ever noticed all these companies are making these products with 20 different wavelengths, giving you some science-washing statements about how great each of these are? Well, we now know that their only benefit is the heat they produce when they are absorbed by your cells. But what you don't know is they are dicing up these wavelengths into a pie, reducing the available intensity into each wavelength. So if you purchase a 1,000 watt panel with 8 wavelengths, then your 1,000 watt gets diced up into 8 predetermined pie pieces. Who determines the size of each of these pie pieces, and what is it a complete mystery? What's even worse, say you decide you don't want the 660 or 690 wavelengths that represents 2 of the pie pieces. Your 1,000 watt panel just got reduced down to something like 700 watts because the intensity goes to those 2 wavelengths is not redistributed to the other wavelengths. This is cray-cray. The more wavelengths, the more diced up your pie is. This is especially cray-cray because we just identified that all wavelengths are absorbed by the cell in the body, and the only thing different wavelengths do is determine how far down, which can be controlled by the intensity. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that just screams 2 wavelengths. One to hit the skin and one to go as deep as possible to make sure you can deliver full power to each or both of these wavelengths. This way, you will get the best of both worlds. Your pie can now look like this: 100% to the surface penetrating wavelengths, or 100% to the deep penetrating wavelengths, or splitting the pie whatever way you want. Or even better yet, pick 2 wavelengths at the low end and 2 at the high end and have total control over each one of them, so your pie chart can now look like this. Okay, we have come a long way in our quest. We have addressed 3 out of the 5 issues we need to build this perfect light. Now we know that the IR and near-infrared light affects the body by producing heat within the cells. We know that we have to choose a camp to get behind, Jeffries or Zimmerman, because that determines if we build a tabletop unit or a bed. And finally, we now know we don't need so many wavelengths, we just need 2 or 4, but we need to be able to apply full power to each or all of these wavelengths. Wow, we're almost there. We just need to know how much light do we need to produce and how long do we need to leave it on for. I'm going to address both of those topics in their own videos as they are equally important to what we have discussed here, and I am afraid I have emptied your coffee cup already and you're ready to hit the kill button at any moment. So here's where I'm at. Because we don't know what we don't know, I'm not choosing a camp. I'm going to make my light such that it satisfies both. That way, when one wins or another one pops up, my light will still be good and not end up in the yard sale we talked about. That means I'm going to go with a light that covers as much of the body as possible. This means panels or beds. My panel or bed will have 4 wavelengths. The value of these wavelengths are not critical as long as some aim at the skin and some aim at going deeper, so I will stick with the standard 660, 810, 850, 940 thing, as they are easy to find out there. Lastly, I want to make sure I can adjust the intensity or power to each of these wavelengths such that I can deliver full power to each or all of them. No diced up pie. This is critical. Who is the rocket scientist that determined this pie anyway? What makes him so knowledgeable? In the future videos on how much light and how long, you will see it's body dependent. So you absolutely need control over these wavelengths. No pie. With this information, you can start looking for that device of choice. Because I'm not affiliated with anyone, I cannot give you any advice on what to buy or who to buy it from. All I can do is give you the specifications to look for. If your favorite manufacturer does not supply them, contact them and demand it. It's your money and you should get what you want and what the science says you need. If they say they can't deliver it, tell them to contact me. I'll get them on the right path. One parting note. If this was not boring enough for you and you want some real nails on the chalkboard kind of stuff, you should listen to the Jesse Chappus show with Dr. Roger Suet. You know what? I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. I will just leave a link in the description below. This guy delivers some really great information on light and its effect on the body. Stuff that appears the most up-to-date information on red light therapy. A really good listen if you can make it to the end. Until next time, get out there and get some red light because Mother Nature gives it for free.